Yeah, I'm on the West Pennine Moors and I'm looking into the far distance to see Winter Hill, which obviously is very apt description at the moment. Hi folks, on a day like today, I'm sure you want to be outside enjoying the scenery and the exercise. But of course, we need to be careful in winter. So I have some science and experience I want to share with you that hopefully will help you to stay warm in winter. As I said, I'm going to try and share a bit of science, very much emphasis on the bit. In our brains, there's actually a small kind of thermostatic control. That's probably the best way to describe it. And it's trying to balance all the heating systems. And of course, the main heating system is your blood system. And it's trying to maintain your body at a constant temperature of 98.6 Fahrenheit or 37 degrees. And of course, it's using various kind of switches to do that, to drawing blood away from certain parts of your body and particularly driving the warmth to your core. It really has got to protect your core, your vital organs. So we need to think about how we dress and how we help the body to maintain that kind of challenge that it's got when we put ourselves into the cold like it is today, which has actually been -10 at various points of the day. On a day like today, most hikers know they need to use the layering system. And the reason for that is that you're actually trying to trap air, which acts as an insulator. And as your body warms up from the energy of moving around, then obviously you're trapping pockets of warm air. And the great thing about this system is it's easy to control. You can of course delayer. Shall I take my coat off? Not just at the moment. Venting, so yeah, I can vent some air. And then the thing that I just did then, just naturally, is agitation, so disturbing the air that's trapped. And of course the other thing is not just about taking layers off, but hopefully you're carrying spare layers as well. And I've certainly got one in my rucksack. So yeah, the layering system, trapping that warm air. So you may have noticed one of my layers is my waterproof. And the reason for that is I'm really using it as my windproof. So on a very cold day, you're actually, when you're crashing through the air, you're creating almost like your own personal wind chill. So I'd rather wear this than say like an extra t-shirt. And the other thing is, you've kind of got to carry it with you anyhow, so it's a lot easier to wear it as to carry it. And if it does snow or rain, I've already got it on. And it's easier to vent than a t-shirt. Right, where am I going? One of the challenges we have with any system of keeping warm is moisture management. So yeah, we've got to get the balance right, hoping that we're not going to sweat. But inevitably, especially if you're walking and doing exercise, running, whatever it may be, you're going to probably sweat. And the problem with that is that we lose more heat from our body. So when clothing is damp, it dissipates from our bodies 25 times faster than when it's dry. So damp clothing is a real problem for us. And of course, not just damp, but if we get it soaking wet, then we could have real problems, particularly around the core. What that management system and that heating system's doing is trying to really maintain the heat, particularly around the core. Right, I need to get over this stand now. Just hang on. Oh, and there's a stream as well. Now, knowing the impact of damp or wet kit, you can see why it's critical to take action. Particularly, like I say, you're trying to protect your core. And the reason for that, of course, is that that's where your vital organs are. So if you've got a wet t-shirt on, or anything else for that matter, now would be the time to stop and change them if you can. Obviously, sometimes you can't really do that, but it's best to at least put on a dry top over the top of everything else and just keep moving. So even when you're not wet, sometimes you can still feel the cold in your extremities, your fingers, your toes, and the skin sometimes around your face. And that is because what's happening is that the body, that thermostat in your head, is actually controlling the railway system of moving the blood around. So it's drawing them from those extremities to try and keep the core warm. And there's no reason why we can't use the layering system for other parts of our body. So when I'm not recording, I am actually using a 2-layering system for my hands. So as you saw, I have actually got mitts on, and that's just because it's easy to control the camera and things. And then I have this waterproof, windproof mitt that I put over the top as well when I'm not recording. And I would suggest, if you do a similar thing, have a 2-layered system for your glove. So an inner glove and your normal outer glove. Recently, I've become a big fan of this. It's actually 2 of them, but I only need 1 at the moment. And so it's electronic hand warmers. They're absolutely great. And that thing I mentioned before about keeping the core warm, well, what I actually do is leave them on in my anorak pockets. In winter, do you use winter hiking socks? Well, I don't. I tend to just carry on with my summer ones, but double up. And that way you don't have to buy the expensive big thick hiking socks. Because obviously what I'm trying to do is trap the air. And of course, as we mentioned before, we definitely want to be carrying a spare pair. If your feet get wet, they're really going to get cold. Which brings me on to that big problem with shoes or boots. They've actually got holes in. One to put your feet in, of course, and the other for your laces. And so one good way to trap the air is wear gaiters, of course, as I am doing. Most times of the year I'll wear my gaiters virtually full time, even in summer. It's just worth it for protecting yourself against the wet, like I say, crossing streams, long grass in the early morning dew. Yeah, I use them all the time. Winter, summer, rain, shine. They're worth the investment. Okay, so we've talked about the hands, we've talked about the feet. And then the other thing, obviously worth, I had mentioned before, about how your body restricts the blood flow to your face, as an example. And it will do it to any part where the skin is exposed. Why waste all that energy trying to heat an area that you're just letting free to the cold air? And so, again, to help that thermostatic control, you want to cover areas that you can. And if I wasn't speaking, I could obviously be doing this. Covering the ears is another one. Particularly if you've got the wind coming against you, you want to protect the nose and other extremities. Well, that's enough of that. So yeah, just try and keep everything covered, because you're trying to make sure that the body has full heating across all areas, so we're not endangering our core, interestingly. A critical piece of our kit, of course, is our walking boots. And have you ever thought about when you buy walking boots and they're the waterproof type for winter, and over time they seem to lose their waterproofness? Now this is actually caused by the collection of dirt on the boots, and over time you obviously collect more and more, and even though you might wash them, they kind of get ingrained into the boot. And what happens is the water collects and kind of sticks to that dirt, and then it's absorbed into the boot, and it's ambling across obviously lots and lots of different micros of dirt, and so gradually the boot absorbs all that water and moisture. The other thing is, particularly if you walk a lot in, say, somewhere like the Lake District, then you're just creating lots of micro tears from all the rocks that your feet are banging against. So that's why when it comes to winter, I actually prefer to use leather boots. I don't need to worry about breathability or even too worried about lightness on my feet. I actually prefer to make sure my feet are just warm and dry. And so leather boots to me are the way to go. However, if you do stick to the kind of more material type or non-leather boots, then really critical that you're giving them a good clean. Get the scrubbing brush out and make sure they're really clean. Obviously leather boots, you need to dub in them with the wax and stuff, but I think leather, for me, in winter, is the way to go. Now, one thing about winter walking is that you're likely to want to pee more, and that's okay. It's actually a natural part of what the body's doing. That thermostat is trying to keep an equilibrium all across the body. And one of the things I mentioned before is that the body is going to restrict the blood vessels going to the skin surfaces, so restricting the flow of blood. The problem with that, it actually increases the blood pressure, and of course we don't want that. What the body will then do is filter off the excess water within the blood, and yeah, it then wants you to get rid of that excess water. And the reason it wants you to get rid of it is that it's spending time at the moment trying to keep that liquid at body temperature. So you may be in company and you're kind of embarrassed to go, but believe me, you best go in. You don't want to be wasting all that warmth you've got. You want the liquid out and the warmth kept in. So yeah, sorry, don't be embarrassed, you need to go. You may have noticed I'm actually sat down at the moment. Yep, sat down in the snow. Well, kind of. I have actually got my sit mat with me. Definitely worth carrying one of these. Even sometimes when I've been talking to you, I've actually been stood on it as well. So for what they weigh, definitely worth taking one with you. So the last item is possibly one of the most important things to talk about, which is dehydration. So when the air is cold, it becomes drier. And of course, as it gets colder, it gets drier still. Now that is important to be aware of, because when you're breathing the air in, your body heats it up before it reaches your lungs. And then of course, when you expire and you give out the air, you're losing warm air. And as we're taking the air in, we're actually re-moisturising it before it hits our body. So not surprising, over a long period of time, you're losing quite a bit of liquid. And in fact, you'll lose more liquid in wintertime compared to when you're in a temperate climate. and it could be an extra litre or so. So yeah, keep hydrated. So it's something to think about, which reminds me actually, I need to take a warm drink on board and stay hydrated. Cheers guys. Nothing better than warm tea on the fells. You know what to do now. Layering all over, including the hands and the feet. And of course what you're doing is helping to keep the core warm. And the core will equally help to keep your hands and feet warm. So it all works in unison, trying to maintain that body temperature. And of course, yes, if you must go, you must go. You have to pee in winter, more than normal I'm afraid. And of course, don't forget dehydration. You're going to drink more than you would do normally in a temperate climate. So all those things in consideration, I hope they've been useful. And of course, if you've got any tips or tricks, then please share. I'd love to hear from you. Right, I need to go, although I am enjoying the view. But anyhow, all the best, and I'll see you on the trails one day, guys. Bye.